Lightning motorcycles.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
4 years ago I got the chance to test ride a Lightning Strike and I shot a video about it, which is still getting more weekly views than any other video I've made since. That's crazy. But I thought as time went on and Lightning started delivering these bikes to customers, we'd start seeing more and more of these test ride videos. Maybe some reviews, maybe some range tests, maybe a video of it at the racetrack. But here we are 4 years later and it's crickets, aside from these weird, creepy videos that Lightning makes themselves.
And no gas. I like that.
So what happened? Where are all these Lightnings? Why aren't owners making videos of their own bikes? And what happened to the Strike that I ordered? Well, to tell this story, we have to go way back, to the year 2018. I had a chat with my buddy Pinero about his thoughts on electric motorcycles, and we both agreed Lightnings didn't exist. Are they real?
They are not real, right? They're the unicorn of the electric motorcycle world because, like the unicorn, people know of them. How many people have seen them in real life?
Back then, their claim to fame was the LS218 that broke a whole bunch of records. But was it just a race bike? Could you actually buy one? Their official press photos look like this. Why? Was Lightning actually real, or was it just a scam like the Damon Hypersport? Supposedly there were private owners of legally registered LS218 road bikes, but finding them was pretty difficult because barely any of them are online. Nobody's posted photos of their bikes on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere, so what's going on? Well, I found the very first owner of an LS218 and he got back to me. He said he'd love to meet up, but his bike is at the factory getting upgrades. I said, cool, no worries, let me know when you get it back, I'm dying to see one in person. I messaged him about 6 months later and I got the same response. It's at the factory, getting upgrades. Okay. I found another owner who actually called me on the phone and we had a great chat. And I said, hey man, I'm going to be in California in a few weeks. It'd be really cool to meet up and see your bike. He said, oh yeah, sorry man, I actually crashed my bike and it's at the factory getting repaired. Okay, so when I got to California, I was on a mission. This was getting mysterious, and I love mysteries. I found the address that was on Lightning's website, which at the time said it was in San Carlos, and I drove over there. Who knows, maybe I'd see two LS218s, one that's getting upgrades and one that was crashed and it's being repaired. Maybe all these stories are true and I've just been watching too much Scooby-Doo. Well, I found the shop, and it said Lightning on the door, but there were no Lightnings there. It was like a woodworking shop or something. Anyway, I think I told this story before, but I looked through some old emails and I found a phone number for Dave, the sales guy, and I called Dave up. As it turned out, Dave was real, he still worked for Lightning, and he was super friendly. So he told me that they moved to a new building in San Jose, and he actually set up a tour for me a few days later. When I got there, the man himself, Richard Hatfield, showed me around. I saw like 8 LS218s, one of which had body damage from a crash. There was no mystery. Lightning was making road bikes, and I talked to someone who owned one and crashed one. It was all true. Then Richard told me about the Strike, which was still in the works. I got to see the bodywork still being worked on. But the design looked so much like the LS218 that I was convinced this would be my next bike. I only had my 2015 Zero SR at the time, so this was so much cooler. So I put down a $500 deposit before the Strike was even finished. See, you go there and you talk to Richard, and he's so excited about what his team is working on that it makes you excited too, and then that makes you want to support everything he's doing. At least that's how I felt. But another part of me wanted to prove that Lightnings were real, and like even though I was seeing Lightnings there, I wanted to prove that you could actually buy one. I didn't want to give up on the mystery yet. So that was my goal, order a Lightning and see if I could actually get one. And if I could, I would have a Lightning. The rarest, coolest unicorn of a bike from this unicorn company that people don't think exists, like Damon. See, I don't think Lightning is as big as people think. It's not like Zero or Energica where they're huge global operations with hundreds of people working there. It's like this small boutique shop that's like family run that only makes a handful of bikes every year, which I really like, but there's also some downsides to that, which I'll get into later. Anyway, we get to early 2019 and Lightning finally unveils the Strike. And yeah, that video was kind of cringy. The footage was ungraded and they used this royalty-free music. Lightning doesn't have a marketing department and they really need one. But even with all that, I was still sold on the bike. It looked awesome. I became obsessed. I got to sit on one about 6 months later, but it wouldn't be until January 2020 that I actually got to ride one. And here's the thing about my test ride. I loved it. The bike felt so good. And I know a lot of people called me a shill because I was way too positive in my review. But first of all, nobody paid me to do this, so I'm not a shill. If YouTube videos make you rich and famous, When does that happen? And second, have you ridden a Lightning? No.
I know more than you. All right.
The Strike honestly doesn't feel like anything else I've ridden. Still to this day, no other electric motorcycle feels like the Strike. It's so lightweight and the frame design is amazing. It was a little heavier than my old Zero, but the handling actually felt like a motorcycle. I said it was basically an electric R6 in my video, and it really felt like that, which no other electric bike does. The build quality wasn't the best at the time, like the carbon fairings were not very smooth, there were weird switches everywhere, the suspension was squeaky for some reason. Quality control is very like, okay, it's a small company, but I still loved it and I still wanted it. When we got back from test riding the Strike, Richard asked me if I wanted to ride the LS218. And yeah, I rode the LS218. It was ridiculous. What a cool day. As I was leaving, I said thank you to Richard, and he said, "Good to see you, Sam. Thanks for coming. By the way, we're putting an LS218 motor in the Strike and calling it a Strike R. Okay, bye." What? Yeah, the Strike R. Striker. How cool does that sound? I had a Strike Carbon ordered, but obviously I had to wait for the Strike R. But then this is probably where you're like, okay, well, what happened to your order? Well, New Zealand, where I live, passed a law requiring all imported bikes to have ABS, and the Strike didn't have ABS. Another kind of red flag was that the bike wasn't waterproof, which is a huge issue for an electric bike, but also for New Zealand because it rains here like all the time. The AIM racing dash that Lightning was using wasn't waterproof. It was meant for being inside of a car. And I had just replaced the dash on my Zero because that wasn't waterproof, so I didn't want to do that again. Back then the Strike didn't even have a sealed battery box. It was just like a bunch of exposed cells, which also isn't great for riding in the rain. So yeah, Lightning had a few things to sort out, but I figured by the time the Strike R gets into production, maybe they'd fix all that stuff and maybe add ABS, and maybe then I could finally buy a Lightning. But then like a month after I uploaded my test ride video, COVID hit, and the whole world shut down. I couldn't make the trip back to California to ride the Strike R when it was ready, and New Zealand closed their borders, and so I wasn't even sure when I'd be able to leave the country again. So I had to cancel my order. I got my deposit back, and that was kind of it. I still wanted to get a Strike R eventually, but a lot of things happened in the past 4 years. I got a few Energicas, and Strikes still don't have ABS. So I'm kind of bummed, but also relieved that I didn't buy a Lightning in the first few years because we all got to sit back and watch what happened. What didn't happen was their plan to mass produce the bikes in China. That ended with COVID from what I heard. So every Lightning so far has been built in California by a really small crew. If you were one of the first few Strike owners, not everything was ready. And part of that was because of supply chain issues since the whole world was shut down. But part of that was just because it was a small shop. Early owners had to pay full price for a bike that came with half the battery size it was supposed to and didn't have fast charging. All that stuff would be upgraded later, free of charge, but in some cases years later. In 2022, Lightning started designing this enclosed aerodynamic recumbent style bike. But we were all like, what are you doing making new stuff when you should be focused on building more Strikes? Because a lot of people order Strikes and it doesn't seem like that many have been built. From what I've heard, that enclosed aerodynamic project has been cancelled, but nobody really knows. I think Richard gets really excited about new technology, and he's like, alright, I have to have that in my next bike, because that'll make the bike better than everybody else. Kind of like they've been talking about those new batteries that charge in 10 minutes. So I feel like that's good, because every bike they built is a little bit better than the last one. But that also means that every bike is slightly different. If you buy a Lightning now, it's the best Lightning that's ever been built. But it also means that your bike is one of a kind, unlike other Lightnings, so I don't know how that works with like repairs or what, if they're all different. From what I've seen, build quality's improved a lot. Like, they have sealed battery boxes now. I've been chatting with a guy in San Diego who bought a Strike R about 2 months ago, and he loves it so far. He's thinking about starting up his own YouTube channel, so we might finally see some new Lightning videos. If he ever uploads something, I'll share a link to his channel in the comments. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't buy a Lightning, but maybe it's a good thing I waited, because now the bikes are so much better than they were when I rode one. I mean, 4 years later, they have way more power, the build quality is so much better, but still no ABS, so I couldn't buy one even if I wanted to. That, and I'm really happy with my Energica. I don't mean to say one bike's better than the other one, because they're so different, like styling, weight-wise, you know, companies. I don't know how to compare them at all, because they're so different. I think if you're looking for a high-performance electric motorcycle, Energicas are probably the better choice, in my opinion, just because they have dealers everywhere, getting parts is easy, and customer service is amazing. But Lightnings are real, you can actually buy one. Maybe someday you'll be able to buy a Damon too.
Yeah, like that would ever happen. It could. Nuh-uh. Yeah.
Anyway, that was my story about the time that I almost spotted lightning and why I didn't. So I hope that explains things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.